Hey guys, so this is my first video. Welcome to the channel. I love telling stories. The kind that makes you go, wait, what? That actually happened? And yeah, most of the time it did. Today we're starting with something pretty heavy, stories about cheating and betrayal. I know, not exactly feel-good content, but honestly, these stories are insane, and hopefully you can take something away from them. Learn from the mistakes these people made so you don't end up in the same mess. So grab a seat. Welcome to the Campfire. I'm gonna try to put out a new episode every week. So if you like this kind of thing, whether you're just chilling, working, or need something to fall asleep to, I'd really appreciate it if you hit like, subscribe, and leave a comment about what you think of the story. All right, let's get into it. My husband has a younger brother. He's very well off. He owns a chain of auto repair shops and body shops. Even as a kid, he was quick, slick, the kind of guy who could talk his way into anything, as they say. He knows everyone, can win over almost anybody, make a deal, build connections. One minute it's his supplier, the next it's a lawyer friend, then it's someone at a bank. And he's still a bachelor, not the right time, business first, personal life later. And between us, there had always been something, a certain look, that long eye contact when everyone's joking around at the table. I wrote it off as his charm, but sometimes I caught myself thinking, if only my husband were even a little like that. My husband, plainly put, is a pushover. He's smart, but insecure. He's afraid to start anything new, slow, cautious. So he sits there with all his brains and talent in a mid-level job at a government agency, on an average salary, assuming nothing goes sideways. We live in my apartment, a small studio I had before we got married. My parents helped with the down payment years ago. We want a baby. My husband really wants one. We're both over 30, and I've told him honestly, I'm not having a child while we're living in this shoebox. Two people can barely manage, but with a baby? That's it, game over. We need more space. My husband has some savings, not nearly enough for any kind of mortgage down payment. It's laughable. I've saved more, but even combined, we can't pull it off. And I understand that if I go on maternity leave, my husband simply won't be able to keep us afloat. Knowing our situation, my husband's brother offered to help. If we sold my studio and he put in about the same amount on top, we could get a modest house or a 3-bedroom townhouse in a quiet residential area. So there'd be a nursery, a little balcony or patio, a real kitchen. My husband was thrilled his brother would help. I said, you realize he's not gifting us hundreds of thousands, right? We'll have to pay it back. Are you ready for that? If I'm home with a newborn, our income will be small, and on top of that we'd be repaying a huge debt. How? My husband said he knew his brother. He's rich. He'll forgive it. How can you even think that way? Yes, his brother has money, but that's far too much to be a present. And how is my husband not ashamed that his younger brother would basically be housing his family? His brother also promised to set us up with a great realtor. He had a friend, his agent, who'd do everything fast and right. Show options, negotiate a discount, help us get through inspection, and close through escrow without the stress. My husband was over the moon, and I was just embarrassed. Embarrassed that my husband was clinging to his miserable paycheck, spending all day pushing paper, wanting nothing more, and thinking it was fine for his little brother to bankroll us for free. What's almost funny is that his brother had invited him into the business, not as a mechanic obviously, but not as a director either. The website, bookings, customer chats, reviews, insurance partnerships. My husband refused. It's not intellectual work, and it's hard. Too much hustle, too many clients. Not like his office job where he can read books, scroll online, watch videos. I love my husband. I fell for his mind and his sense of humor, but I didn't realize right away that he was a total wet blanket with no backbone. You want to feel protected in a marriage, like you've got a wall at your back, and here it was, God knows what. In the end, I broke. My husband kept whining about a baby. His brother laid out the plan so convincingly. The agent was already in touch. The terms were family. You'll pay it back when you can, no rush. We sold my studio, added our little bit, and added his contribution, roughly the same amount. We bought a modest 3-bedroom house in a calm neighborhood with a small yard and a room for the nursery. Everything went smoothly. His agent really worked miracles. Fast, no red tape, a decent discount. We signed, got the keys, we moved, and a couple months later I got pregnant. Joy. My husband was glowing. His brother showed up with boxes from IKEA, built the crib himself, and joked, "Uncle Jason is going to be the best uncle in the world." But then his brother started coming around more. "Just checking how you're doing. Everything okay?" He'd call, swing by with beer and steaks. A bachelor, he said, lonely by himself. And those looks, now they burned. When my husband was at work, we'd talk late into the night. He'd tell me about his wins, how he built a whole network of shops from nothing, how he motivates people, how he fought for leases and loans, how he negotiated with insurance companies. "You deserve more, kiddo," he'd say, and his hand would linger on my shoulder. I'd blush, crack a joke, but inside, I was on fire. Meanwhile, my husband finally caved and went to his brother's shop to help out temporarily with the website and customer requests. His income went up, but he complained nonstop. "It's chaos, customers are yelling, my brother's always bossing me around." He'd stay late, come home exhausted with no spark. The baby was born, a healthy boy. I stayed home, money was tight, some benefits, something through insurance, a coupon here, assistance there, basically pennies and humiliation. My husband did what he could, but his brother would toss us money for diapers and for formula, like it was nothing. His visits turned into a ritual. He'd show up with gifts, and the three of us would have dinner. One time, my husband got stuck late on an urgent car, and his brother poured wine. "Let's celebrate your plans, you're doing great." Our eyes met, and the kiss just happened. "This is a mistake," I whispered, but a week later it happened again. When my husband left for a couple days to help at another location in his brother's business, his brother stayed behind to keep an eye on things. That's when we crossed the line for real. No romance, but intense, like someone finally saw me. He was that wall I'd wanted, confident, strong, steady. He said he'd wanted it for a long time. Only twice, and afterward guilt ate me alive, but the pull was stronger. My husband came back. He didn't suspect a thing. But his brother cooled off. He texted less, said he was busy. I wrote, "What is this between us?" He replied, "It was great, but you're my brother's wife." We shouldn't. And then everything blew up. Somehow, my husband found our messages. I'm an idiot. I didn't delete one photo. And on his brother's side, his phone either synced with a tablet at the office or notifications popped up in front of everyone. My husband came home drunk and furious. "You bitch? With my brother?" His brother rushed in to break it up, and my husband punched him. "You've always looked down on me, and now you stole my wife too." His brother snapped back, "Because you're a doormat." She deserved a real man. I helped all of you, with housing, with work, and you, I was sobbing, begging forgiveness. I was lonely, you were so passive. My husband walked out. After that came American-style hell, lawyers, emails, filings, temporary orders. My husband got primary custody through the court by painting me as unreliable, cheating, emotional instability, bad judgment. Our child was taken to his parents, and I was left with rare scheduled visits, like I was a stranger. Now I'm alone in this 3-bedroom place, which as it turns out, his brother had protected himself on, in advance, with paperwork. His help wasn't just a handshake deal. He set it up so he either has a lien as a private lender or an ownership stake, so I can't make a move without him. He's demanding I buy him out, otherwise he'll start proceedings, and I'll get pushed out of here. My husband divorced me. His brother disappeared. Don't get involved in my life. The shame is tearing me apart. I wanted a strong man, and I got betrayed by both. I'm living on scraps, looking for work, and at night I keep thinking, how did I end up here? Look, this story is tough, and here's the thing, betraying someone close to you, especially someone who trusts you, is never the answer. I get it, relationships can be hard, you might feel lonely, unfulfilled, like something's missing, but there's always a way to talk it out first. Always. If your partner isn't giving you what you need, if you're not happy anymore, have that conversation. Be honest, and if it doesn't work out, then end it. Leave. Move on. Then you're free to do whatever you want with whoever you want. But going behind someone's back, that's how you lose everything. Your family, your home, your dignity, and as we just saw, sometimes even the person you thought you wanted. All right, let's move on to the next story. I'm 33 with 2 kids. He came to me with baggage. The divorce wasn't finalized on paper, but the marriage was already falling apart, and he had a teenage son, 14 years old. Let me be clear, I didn't expect his son to love me. If I were in his shoes, I probably wouldn't be thrilled either. But I wasn't prepared for him to be more than just cold. He would publicly humiliate me, precisely and painfully, like he'd rehearsed it beforehand. The first time happened at church. I grew up in a family where you either believe or at least try to keep faith and not turn faith into a performance. We ended up there together, and I went to confession. I was really struggling inside, trying to hold myself together, not fall apart. And at that moment, when everything should have been quiet and private, he loudly asks, in front of everyone in that corner with the priest right there, "Are you going to confess that you slept with a married man and stole him from his family?" I remember my ears ringing. Not because the question was wrong, but because it was delivered like a punch to the gut, designed to make me feel ashamed not before God, but before people. It got worse. At a family gathering, just a regular get-together, table full of food, conversations, women in the kitchen, someone talking about school, someone about work. He walks up to a group of adults and, pointing at me with his finger, says almost cheerfully, "You ladies better keep an eye on your husbands. She's experienced. She'll take them." I was standing right there and felt dirty. Not mistaken, not caught in a complicated situation, but dirty, like I was contagious, and he was pointing me out so others would keep their distance. Then we had a baby with health problems. I don't want to get into the diagnosis. It's something that already steals my sleep and breath. At the hospital, he came with his father, looked at the baby and said, kind of into the air, not directly to me, but making sure I heard, "Yeah, they say it right. You can't build happiness on someone else's misery." And that's when something broke inside me. Because this wasn't just about a hurt teenager anymore. This was about wanting to punish. Like, see? You're supposed to suffer. The strangest part, he got along with my kids. He'd help with the older ones, play with them, even coo at the newborn, bring a bottle, make funny faces. And sometimes, almost casually, he'd throw in, "It's a shame I have to pay for my parents' sins." For a long time, I tried to convince myself his mother was turning him against me. It was easier to think someone was feeding him these words than to admit he thinks this himself. He chooses to talk to me this way on his own. One time I snapped and went through his phone. Yes, I know that's crossing boundaries. I can't justify it nicely. I just had nothing left to stand on. I found his messages with his mom. There was a lot about how we were unworthy, how he should stay away from us, how there was no point getting dirty around us. It was sickening, but it also clarified one thing. She didn't teach him to tear me down. This was their family narrative, their shared air. And the peak came when I found out about the cheating. We're not married. I can't even use the word husband because there was no certificate, no real sense of safety. But we lived like a family. And one day it all surfaced. Messages, strange delays, lies that no longer held together. We fought, and the worst part, the kids accidentally witnessed it. Not the direct details, but the tone, the shouting, my crying. I still haven't forgiven myself for that. When everything quieted down, his son came up to me, calmly, almost caringly, and said, "Why are you crying? He cheated on my mom." Did you really think you deserved to be treated any differently? It was said not just to humiliate me, it was to finally put me in my place. Like, you're not a person, you're temporary, you're punishment, you're a lesson. We broke up. And after we split, I learned the nastiest part. He'd been cheating on me with his ex-wife. Not some random woman, not a mistake, not had too much at the office party, with the very woman whose image his son had used as a club to beat me over the head every time he felt like it. And that's when I really felt like I was going to explode. I paced around the apartment, replaying in my head the scene where I tell his son the truth, not because of parenting or justice, but because I wanted him to feel just as hurt and ashamed as I had, just once. But then I imagined, 14 years old, that's an age when you're already angry, vulnerable, when you're swinging between I'm an adult and I'm scared. And if I tell him, I might hit the target, but that target isn't him. The target is his father. But in the end, it's the kid who'll get hurt, even if he's acting like a little prosecutor right now. I did what I could do the adult way. I wrote to his father, short and firm. No visits if the son continues to humiliate me, any meetings only by pre-agreed rules, no confrontations in front of the kids, questions about the baby's health only when necessary. I stopped defending myself, stopped asking for respect, just set boundaries like a door. Don't knock, you don't come in. I also talked to the son once without moralizing, without you should. I said something like, you have the right to be angry, but you don't have the right to make me a public target. If you need to talk to your father, a therapist, whoever. With me, only respectfully, or we don't interact. He didn't say anything, but at the next meeting, he was quieter. Not kinder, quieter. I didn't tell him about the affair with his ex-wife, not because I felt sorry for his father, but because I don't want to be a woman who fights through children anymore. I'm already living with the consequences of adult decisions, and I have 3 kids around me, 2 of mine and 1 who will always be part of this story, whether I like it or not. And the bitterest part, sometimes I still catch myself wanting to blurt out the truth, but then I look at my kids, at the medical papers, at the nighttime feedings, at morning school runs, and I realize my happiness now isn't about proving to someone who's right here. My happiness is for home to be quiet, for no one to walk all over me just to survive. Here's what I take from this. If someone isn't fully out of their last relationship, legally, emotionally, whatever, don't step into that mess. You're not just dating a person, you're inheriting their entire unresolved situation. And that's almost never fair to you, but the bigger lesson? Boundaries. She finally stopped defending herself, stopped begging for respect, and just drew a line. That's the only way forward when people keep disrespecting you. You don't argue, you just decide what you will and won't accept. And one more thing, never drag kids into adult problems. No matter how much you're hurting, no matter how tempting it is to expose the truth, just to hurt someone back, kids remember that stuff forever. She did the right thing by not telling the son, even though his father absolutely didn't deserve that protection. Sometimes the hardest lesson is this: you can't fix people. You can only decide how much you're willing to endure. Let's move on to the next story. I never thought that after almost 18 years of marriage, you could screw things up so stupidly and so expensively, but my husband managed it. He got involved with a colleague from another office, different city, rare business trips, project calls, constant late nights. At first, I tried to be mature and rational about it. Midlife stuff, work stress, we have kids, bills, routines. I kept telling myself I was just overthinking it. Then the spending started, the kind that made my stomach drop, but he always had an explanation. First, it was need to rent a car for a couple weeks, and somehow it turned out he didn't rent it. He basically bought it as a gift for her, and yes, the money came from our joint account. Then, need to take partners to a meeting, important relationships, and suddenly there's a beach trip, resort photos where she's glowing and he looks 10 years younger. I still clung to the familiar picture of our life. We're a family, we're normal people. We work through problems instead of humiliating ourselves. He slipped up over something small, and that's what broke me. There was no movie-style caught you at a hotel. It was mundane, a notification on the tablet, synced messages, and one short, "Miss you, when do we fly out again?" with a little airplane emoji, like they were teenagers. I remember my fingers going numb and feeling both ashamed and ridiculous at the same time. Me, a grown woman, a mother, staring at a screen and feeling like the world's biggest fool. When I confronted him, he barely even denied it. He suggested we split amicably. The offer was spectacular. I get to keep our 3-bedroom house, the one where we lived as a family, and the country house, while everything else goes to him. He said it like he was doing me a favor. Like I should be grateful he wasn't throwing me and the kids out on the street. That's when I realized how detached from reality he'd become. Everything we have was acquired during the marriage, and it's not his or mine based on mood. It's assets, paperwork, shares, obligations, and he barely even goes to the country house. His mom uses it more because she likes the garden and the peace and quiet. I didn't yell. I did something I'm usually not good at. I calmly listed exactly what he stood to lose. I reminded him that his mother loves me, genuinely, not just tolerates me for her son's sake, that his sister calls me more often than she calls him, and that his nieces and nephews consider me part of the family. That our friends, those same couples we celebrated holidays with, had barbecues with, traveled with, wouldn't accept this new love who's barely in her 20s and literally just stepped into my spot. And yes, it might sound petty, but in real life, reputation and social circles are currency too. Then I moved on to his job, and that's when he actually went pale. He has good connections, he likes feeling important, being one of the guys at the company, and many of his colleagues are my former classmates and friends. We'd helped each other for years, worked on projects together, attended the same events, knew each other's lives. Plus, our daughter is friends with the CEO's daughter. I regularly attend events with her mom, and we're frequently invited to official receptions at the boss's house. My husband always took pride in being in there. I said it straight. Do you really think you can quietly divorce me, bring in your girl colleague, and just keep living like nothing happened? And finally, the legal part. No hysterics, just maximum specificity. I told him I had proof of the affair, that if he wanted a war, he'd get one, that I would fight for every penny, including the car registered to his mistress, because it was bought with family money, and that's easily traceable. I said out loud words that apparently work wonders: lawyer, financial disclosure, bank statements, asset appraisal. He looked at me like he was seeing me for the first time, not as a convenient wife, but as someone who could be dangerous. The funniest and most pathetic part, he really hadn't thought any of it through. He was in love and convinced that life was a romance novel. He'd leave for the real thing, and I'd quietly accept the role of the ex-wife who should be grateful for the 3-bedroom and the cottage. After our conversation, he wandered around lost, like a kid called to the principal's office. He'd try guilt trips, we can handle this like adults, then anger, you're blackmailing me, then back to sweet talking. The standard roller coaster of someone who's just realized the price tag on their love for the first time. It ended predictably. The girl disappeared as soon as the money stopped. She didn't leave him because of morals or I realized I destroyed a family. She left because at some point he stopped funding the pretty picture. Trips, gifts, restaurants, spontaneous weekends. When most of the assets were protected and transferred so he couldn't easily blow through them, he became uninteresting. I don't feel triumph about this. It's not a victory. It's just confirmation that none of it was about love. It was about excitement and status. We've been living in this weird arrangement for 2 years now. In public, we pretend to be a couple. We smile at school events, show up together where we have to, act decent around family. His mom still invites me over. His sister still talks to me about life. His nieces and nephews still run to hug me. But at home, we're like roommates. I barely talk to him, only about practicalities, only about the kids, bills, schedules. I don't iron his shirts. I don't pack his lunch. I don't ask how his day was. He can stand next to me in the kitchen pretending everything's normal, but inside I'm empty, like someone hit mute. And yes, he's suffering, badly, sometimes even theatrically. He tries to make amends, suddenly helping more around the house, buying me something practical, suggesting we start over, but it doesn't touch me. Because I saw how easily he suggested I disappear from our shared life and even act like I got lucky. I saw how he spent our money on some other girl while still coming home, eating dinner, and saying goodnight to the kids. The most honest part, I'm done with this too. Not because I feel sorry for him, but because living next to someone you feel cold disgust for is like living in a house with a constant draft. You get used to it, but you're always catching cold. I held on for 2 years for stability and for the kids, but I'm tired of performing family where there's no family left. I've decided I'll see through what I started and walk away without drama. When both kids are accepted to college and leave for school, I'll file for divorce and divide the assets so the kids and I have separate apartments and starting conditions, not eternal dependence on dad's moods. I'm already gathering documents, keeping my financial folder, planning without emotions, and most importantly, I no longer think about the mistress or want to publicly revenge him. I want quiet, my own home without tension, and the feeling that I'm living on a stage. Sometimes he asks, "Will you ever forgive me?" And every time I think the same thing. Forgiveness isn't a button or a transaction. It's not something you can buy with a car for another woman and then compensate for with sad eyes. I don't know if I'll forgive him, but I know for sure that I won't live like betrayal is just a mistake that can be smoothed over. This story shows something really important. Knowing your worth isn't just emotional, it's practical. She didn't just cry and accept whatever he offered. She knew the law, she knew their finances, she understood what she'd built socially and professionally, and she used all of it. Not to destroy him out of spite, but to protect herself and her kids. That's not being vindictive, that's being smart. And here's the thing about forgiveness. Nobody owes it to you just because you ask. You can't cheat, blow through family money on someone else, try to leave your spouse with scraps, and then expect everything to go back to normal because you're sorry now. Forgiveness isn't a transaction. It's something that might come with time, or it might never come. And that's okay. If you're in a situation where someone's disrespecting you, using you, or taking you for granted, don't just react emotionally. Think, plan, protect yourself, and when the time is right, walk away on your terms, not theirs. All right, everyone, that's it for today's episode. 3 heavy stories, a lot to think about. I hope you got something out of these, maybe a reminder to communicate, to set boundaries, to protect yourself, or just to think twice before making decisions that could blow up your whole life. If you made it this far, thank you for listening. Don't forget to hit that like button, subscribe if you want more of these every week, and drop a comment. I really want to know what you think about these stories. I'll see you in the next one. Take care.